Hello everyone. Today's talk is called Walk with Greatness. And your longing shall come to guide you to your greatness. And so if I were to ask, what do you long for, my beloved being? In that silence, can you find the heart of hearts? Now, to very clearly communicate this talk, I want to say that to walk with greatness simply implies what greatness can mean. So, how you are walking in your life suggests what you see. So the earliest way, the simplest way you can see how someone is, just look at how they're walking. And so the way someone is walking is showing you how the way they are putting effort. And so effort is very important in the concept of greatness, because at some reality the individual experiences suffering. So the great leader must recognize that his greatness is beyond his limitation. However, in this allowance or in this achieving of greatness, is that greatness only for one man? When one human does something great for all humankind, is that greatness for one man, or does it belong to all men? And so you see, the great acts of the human organism really shows how far his organization can take him. Reality becomes an experience of bliss because bliss becomes the introduction of the new. And so a novel experience of your existence is a very omniscient gaze. Throughout your life, you begin in certain ways of thought. Acknowledge this immediately and be comfortable and know that you're present. You don't need to understand how you're present yet, because before you ask that question, how am I present, you need to look at what is here. So before asking your question, we stop the search to look at what is in our present moment. As you look at the present moment, you recognize that there is an element, an aspect to your existence that is co-creative and also self-reflective. In that the things that you see, it's as if you know them well because you are putting the value in there. And so we want to see how man can become a treasure revealer in his moment of existence. And you see that his talk, his speech, his acts of communication, and his expression are best done through a knowing of his feelings. So right now, you see, I say words and they have powerful intensity. But when I say certain words that are just present in certain emotional ranges, you will see that your observance of your emotion can be done beyond thought to create many realities. So in my anger, I can burst into the wrath of the gods who made many worlds to show how chaotic existence was. You see, even the bad person is an example of the life you see. It is simply something there in your environment. So the worst case scenario is simply an object of observation. Who is that observance? And the word who kind of like disappears. Because who you really are has to be a dynamic state of your activation. You have to be moving, you have to be in the peak of your inspiration, and then you can ask that question. And the peak of your inspiration, sometimes very playfully, especially at this time where society is to actually not constantly shout in the noise, but to suddenly become silent and study etymology and suddenly recognize that words are also lenses within this projection of reality we have. And so the language and terminology and all the sounds that we have ever made in this existence, all movements that have been considered by our vastness of being, they all become relevant in how they are very irrelevantly kept. And so that association of an eternal movement is also present in your most static state. So that means that just because I sit down, it doesn't mean the world stopped moving. And so infinite change is grasped with arms that are very compassionate to self, and as self is apparent in the appearance of others that we perceive, we begin to see that in loving others, we have always loved ourselves. In helping others, we have always helped ourselves. It's very interesting, and we need to simply catalyze ourselves with the understanding that man has been seeking win-lose strategies, because that's how the animals played the game. However, man is not an animal now. You're very self-aware, and so you do not have to keep certain realities of very intense and agitated co-creation. You can simply allow things to happen, and in the comfort and in the understanding of the virtue and patience, you see the clarity of your being present. So many people at first think their purpose is to do some external change, but the wise and the ancient voices of the wisdom of the past have very beautifully said that at the end of Lao Tzu's beard, there was an invisible string of hair, which was this quote. And this quote is, mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. And so what these words suggest is that regardless of the symbol, regardless of the interpreter, regardless of how well you think you're doing, become aware of your existential value by observing the measurement and seeing the object of observance and the observer are different states of being and awareness. And so your self-awareness spirals into a greater view of itself, which then the ability comes. And so there was the movie of, I remember, I think it was Genghis Khan or Attila, where he's sitting in this prison. And he's sitting in this prison before he suddenly goes and unleashes a storm. And he's sitting in this prison and he's in such concentration and meditation as if he's waiting for something. And in the movie, a seer, an old seer, suddenly gets this vision and tells him, save the temple when you come and destroy everything, you know. And so they make a deal and they give props, and eventually the old guy dies, but the temple is saved. You know? But not to get too off topic, is that your vision must come from an observance of your nature of being to then be a natural growth. The reason you think you're messing up is because what you're basing or comparing these forms of reality is based on an incomplete aspect of yourself. In other words, you're choosing a certain view of the world, certain depth of view. So for example, it's like you asking where's the coffee shop and me telling you it's there, but suddenly imagine the difference in feeling if you were actually in the coffee shop suddenly. That there are differences in intensity, and when reality shifts both in the cellular planes of your understanding, you see that these forms are always giving you self-awareness, and that self-awareness comes to the human form as knowing. So we are not like trying to find the strings as if we're puppets, but we are trying to see that our eyes are really the creators of the creation that we see. And so vision is not just based on image. Vision is also the observance of image, which very playfully is playing hide and seek with our continuum of space and time. So understand that playfulness is a framework of reality that really is open. When you are playing, you are immersed in both emotional harmony, mental harmony, and active physical expression. But playfulness means that you are not just playing around physically. In other words, you're doing serious work. You have perhaps the seriousness of Napoleon on his horse, or perhaps the seriousness of the greatest leaders of men standing up, And so you will find yourself walking with greatness. And this greatness, which you begin perceiving externally, is because you have become aware of an existential, internal sense of knowing. And it is a very beautiful blessing when you realize that life was never against you, but it was against any idea you had because you didn't have good ideas. So allow yourself very comfortably to see life and observe it and see your life. You know, because these words that I'm saying have no value unless you see a value in them. Unless you decide to move and polish your mirror that is showing you a very blurry face. And so to walk with greatness, it's as if this intuitive knowing which a leader at first has begins to emerge more of his memory, and you begin seeing that the reason it's as if your life is perfect in the moment is because every memory, every thought, every image, every experience has led to the one that is here right now. And so you become the creator of everything that you have, in a sense, been a creation of. And you observe all these in one moment where you see the ability of the eyes of man is to dissolve into the sight of all. And there have been men who have done that. However, it was a very different relationship and attitude to life. So, for example, see Earth as just a room, a class. Let's say a certain classroom where they're giving certain lectures. Okay, certain lectures on how existence is in, for example, the space-time continuum of the human being, right? Now, there are certain people and there are different types of students. In other words, you see there are different forms of consciousness and there are different beings with different intentions. So you see our individuality is, in a sense, working with an unknown sense of inspiration. And the reason it's unknown is because the nature of the classroom that is this physical reality is that it's only one room of this vast building, which is our cosmos. So in this one room, suddenly you see there's some students who are just constantly stuck and they're like, gosh, I don't understand what this teacher is saying, you know? And they just don't understand it. And there's some who just come in the classroom, look at the subject, look at the title on the blackboard, and they're like, okay, I know this, you know, and they go, right? You see, there's consciousness is very different. In my life, the way I was looking at form really disabled me. You want the way that you're looking at the forms and of existence and just any life form to be one that is enabling you and your moment of reality. So you as a person, your greater responsibility and your greater steps in walking with greatness is taking more responsibility for your moment of experience. So that means you're not just responsible for every single person, thing, life form around you in this moment of awareness, but you are also responsible for all the subtler planes of your conception in your mind and an acceptance of who you are, which perhaps is the most chaotic idea to an elusive order. Then the eyes of man have opened in bodies of remembrance that lead to the smile of the Heavenly Father. Because imagery is simply the landscape which you are interpreting. In other words, for example, not everyone has the same eyesight, and so you look at things differently. And because people don't have the eyesight, they buy glasses, they adjust themselves. So you need to go see how your nature of learning and understanding is, and in a sense, you will see that greatness is not just a word or a quote. Greatness is such an involvement in life as a human being that when you are about to leave, not just all men are looking at you with grace, but that the whole sector of your omniscience smiles a bit more firmly, where you see that this existence of yours in this plane of reality is such a completion because it was an allowance of incomplete existence. And so existence and non-existence are always lovers. In the unknown depths of man's knowing. Activate yourself with an immediate acknowledgement of who you are. You have the clarity of the sky. And that is why you're limitless, because you're an existential allowance of, in a sense, eternal continuation, but an eternity that does not need to be colored with words or terminology. You are a knowing of great action, and you will see at first you need to learn from your lack of greatness. And as you learn from your lack of greatness, then you discover aspects of your handling life, and you remember certain parts of yourself that integrate in new ways. So what that means is that suddenly images of the past coagulate with images of what could be in the future, and so you're merged in the moment of just vast, just color and image. And you see, this all can be in an intuitive range. So what that means is, like, you might suddenly have a perfect knowing of certain experiences, but this knowing is, it's not detailed enough to communicate, but you know it exactly. And so that is a subtler level of your activation, and that means a sense of yourself has come to talk to you. And what that means is, back in the day, the shaman would walk in the forest and there were spirits that he would acknowledge. All enlightened men have also gotten the responsibility of multidimensional view. And so you must be responsible in how you are flowing with things. And what that means is that responsibility comes in being honest and naturally allowing things to happen. In other words, think of the leader that never was running to be great, but internally was always gently walking and enjoying every step until he had achieved what he was meant to achieve here. And so internally have the gentleness and the peace of mind of someone like the Buddha, who said, walk in a way as if you're holding a flower. Live in that gentleness and feel that life is always elevated and your eyes belong to every view as beautifully as every view can belong to you. Honesty is healing. Authenticity is healing. Authenticity is not some shape or image you're looking for, it's self-awareness, self-remembrance. How does self-awareness and self-remembrance happen and self-reflection happen? By being very still and silent. At the core of that stillness and silence, the aspect of you that felt like you had to be violent in this reality will begin realizing that it can learn from other states of being where it is not formed in that way. So think of also educating the ideas of your ideas. Man as consciousness has the ability to keep any relationship afloat. And so we want to activate these subtler realms because I want very powerful designers. As I finish my walk out of this very graceful and gentle, very beautiful playground of form, as I step into the gates of the unknown after my decomposition, I would like to just feel the vastness of the evolution that can happen for man as I am walking. So I want to transition, I want to walk into my transcendence after my death in a way where I don't need to look back, because I am certain that humanity is certain of its direction, of how its greatest command shall dissolve with the command of life and all that is. Through simplicity, grasp the complex, and through complexity, remember the simple. You are an existential attention to many aspects of your reality. You need to see that who you are looking at in the mirror is you, your body, the images you see, but also that which is acknowledging everything. the existential space and time. So if space and time could look at you, and then there was a presence that could look at them, in that omniscience, the walk of greatness has already been walked. You will see that consciousness is finding itself more able to play with space and time. So we are finding more pens with new colors. And so man's technologies need to really evolve in a way that they are showing an existential love for natural progression. And so do not forget that the books that hold the greatest sciences alive come from trees that are the elders of that. I see many people very playfully in certain communities talk about being of places such as Atlantis or other places, I don't know. That is interesting and very interesting idea, but when you are in that remembrance of feeling that you were there, pay attention to the existential attention within that moment, and you will see that your sense of self-remembrance of any antiquity is your ability to perceive as the eyes beyond the reality conceived through space and time. The Creator's collective vision is always there to provide an individuality that is always coming back to itself. So the nature of our cosmos and the nature of our philosophies and the nature of our sciences and the nature of our practices are all simply the experience of man to walk with a greatness beyond the conception of man. And so the next time you look at the sky, smile as you see yourself looking back. Much blessings and namaste.